I'm taking this ammo, and I don't care if I'm breaking the law to do it.
Of course you can have the ammo. You just got done paying for it.
I said I'm taking it. I don't care what you say.
Well, don't forget your change in your receipt.
I'm Spartacus.
Have a good day, sir.
Welcome to the Milsurp Mike channel. Due to the cost of actually getting into vintage Winchester lever-action rifles, I've been obtaining the Uberti replicas such as my 1860 Henry and Winchester 1866 Yellow Boy, and as a matter of fact, I only own one vintage Winchester, my 1895 and 30 Army or 3040 Krag, which I'll talk about today. I know that I have some holes I need to fill as I've yet to cover the 73, 76, 86, 92, and 94 rifles, most of which I'll have to obtain replicas for as vintage rifles are very cost prohibitive, not to mention the cost of what would likely be a divorce. I've already made videos on the Henry 1860 and Winchester 1866 rifles, so I'll just give a quick and dirty history to cover the gap between the 1866 and 1895 rifles. The Henry shot the rimfire 44 Henry cartridge, and the 1866 had the revolutionary King's loading gate to allow loading from the receiver, but this rifle still fired the 44 Henry cartridge. The 1873 was designed to fire centerfire cartridges and was chambered in the most popular revolver cartridges of the day. The 1876 was a stronger 1873 meant to fire rifle cartridges, but the toggle link receiver was still too short to fire popular rifle cartridges of the day, such as the 4570 Government. Still, the 1876 was a favorite for big game hunting out west for at least a decade. Starting in 1883, Winchester formed a partnership with John Moses Browning, who created a much stronger locking block action. This allowed Winchester to finally be able to chamber a lever-action rifle in 4570, which is a long-time goal. This was the model 1886. Not only 4570, but it could handle larger cartridges and even higher pressure smokeless variants later on. After serving a 2-year mission in Georgia for the Latter-day Saints, remember he was Mormon, Browning worked on scaling his locking block action down to fire pistol cartridges to compete with Marlin's offerings. This became the model 1892, which was a much lighter than the 1873. Here we need to remember what happened in France in 1886, the advent of smokeless powder, which allowed for smaller projectiles fired at greater speeds. So Browning again scaled up his locking block action, and Winchester was the first company to produce a rifle for the civilian market that was chambered for smokeless propellants in 1894. Along with this came one of the most popular rounds in U.S. history, the 30-30 or 30 Winchester centerfire. So far, all the lever-action rifles I've mentioned had 2 magazines, which meant that Spitzer bullets could not be used or else you had to worry about chain detonation. Browning remedied this by designing the 1895, which had a box magazine. This rifle can now fire popular smokeless military rounds, including the 3040 Krag, also known as the 30 Army, 303 British, 30-03, 762x54R, 405 Winchester, which was a favorite of Theodore Roosevelt, and it was the first commercial rifle to be chambered in 30-06 in 1908. This allowed the lever-action rifle to be shopped around for military use, and several 100,000 were made for the Russians, who were desperate for rifles in World War I. When searching for an 1895, a Russian was the one I really wanted since I have several spam cans of 762x54R sitting in my closet. Plus, to me, this would be one of the coolest ones to own. Unfortunately, I'm not the only one who thinks this way, as I recently watched an auction for one with a bayonet go for $3,500. $4,000 if you want to count in the buyer's fee for the winner had to pay. I decided I would settle for a civilian one because I knew even these would run you $1,200 minimum. Luckily, a local guy who I consider the guru of milsurps in the Kansas City area was selling one in the 30 Army that had a lineman sight installed on it. He'd always been more than fair with me in the past, so I went ahead and figuratively pulled the trigger. I just bought a nice rifle that would only gain in value, and hey, Theodore Roosevelt owned one in 30 Army to go with his 405 Winchester rifles that legend has it he called the medicine gun for lions. The serial number puts this rifle being produced in 1916. My problem will be obtaining Krag ammo, as it is hit and miss whether it's on shelves at Cabela's, mostly miss. This is why I don't want to use too much of my small stash of 30-40 Krag when I took it shooting. Still, I had to take this thing out, and it was a fun rifle to shoot. Since this was built for the civilian market, there is no stripper clip guide for loading as there was on rifles made for the military. But considering this was made mainly to hunt most North American game, 5 shots should be all you need. Once I got the lineman sight adjusted for 100 yards, this proved to be an accurate rifle. The guy I bought it from took a deer with it last year, not bad for a 100-year-old rifle. As I said, the only real downside of this rifle is finding the ammo, which will hopefully be mitigated once I finally get into reloading. Please be aware of where your elected officials and the groups who claim to represent you stand. You just might find the Republican you supported and the NRA are in closer agreement with Feinstein than they are you. Please join the GOA, a no-compromise Second Amendment group who keeps you informed of what's really going on, and most importantly, your state's organizations who do most of the fighting that pertains to you. Please check out some of my other videos, comment, like, and subscribe. Also, check out my Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and who I support on Patreon. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.